Greetings! In this video, we'll be explaining an infogram covering the types of interpreting. They are many, but to make long story short, we will be covering three of the most important ones. The interpreting type used depends on the situation, location, and even the duration of the event. Before diving into the types, let me give you a little definition that will help you understand better. I define interpretation as a translation in which you try to explain the meaning of something as accurate as possible. Right now that we got the basis, let's talk interpreting. As I said before, we will be covering three of the most important types of interpreting. That's why we have got consecutive interpreting, simultaneous interpreting, and whispered interpreting. The last one is also known as chuchotage, which means in French, whispering. Consecutive interpreting. This form of interpreting is commonly used in meetings with a small number of participants. The interpreter listens to a set number of utterances from the speaker and then gives their rendition into the target foreign language. This method of interpreting is more time-consuming but works well in meetings at which time is not necessarily important.
Presence here today. And I don't know if you, maybe we could translate the last part just about Iraq as opposed to Afghanistan. Just in case there's some.
Yes, sir. أنا سعيد بأن ألتقي برئيس الوزراء العراقي المالكي معنا اليوم وتناولنا عددا من القضايا لا سيما أن
Simultaneous interpreting. Simultaneous interpreting, also known as conference interpreting, involves the process of instantaneously listening to, comprehending, interpreting, and rendering the speaker's statements into another language. This method of interpreting is generally used, but not exclusively, in large-scale conferences, as Oscars, or even in Costa Rica when there is an important event or disaster in another place of the world. We can see the news in Channel 7 doing this type of interpreting. Simultaneous interpreting requires an extremely high level of skill, with teams of 2 or more interpreters required per language, who will work in turns, relieving each other at a set of intervals, to ensure that fatigue and the stress resulting from an intense level of concentration does not affect the final result.
Was breaking out. That time you analysed the financial crisis and you said what China should do about this. But today it seems that you've also come at a time when the Chinese economy is slowing and
Whispered interpreting. This method of interpreting, also known as chuchotage, is used in such meetings where the reduced numbers of participants may not warrant the additional cost of a booth and related technical equipment. The interpreter, who is positioned right next to the listener, simply whispers to the listener precisely what the speaker is saying. Whispered interpretation is also used in courtrooms, where the interpreters listen to a judge or other officers of the court, or to any evidence being presented, such as witness statements, and convey their interpretation to the foreign language-speaking client.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that?
Sí. Yes.
You also have the right to counsel. If you're unable to afford counsel, this court will appoint counsel to represent you. Are you able to afford an attorney?
Now, some tips for interpreters. Rest every 30 minutes of interpreting. Try to shift with a partner because if not, the accuracy of the interpretation will decrease, and you could even faint due to fatigue. Interpretations must be faithful, not resembling exactly the traits of who's being interpreted. The interpreter's job is to interpret, not to be a puppet. Depending on the type of interpretation, take notes and keep an optimal IDS. Note-taking is key when in consecutive interpreting, and an appropriate ear, voice span will let you the opportunity to interpret accurately in the case of whispering. These tips can help you even if you apply other techniques. In the world of interpreting, the most important feature that you must develop is knowledge. Knowing cultural references, jokes, and even knowing how the accent works to change the meaning of a word that builds a sentence is key to give an idea. This is the reason why I decided to finish this video wishing you to acquire knowledge, because this takes a lot of time and has taken much of mine to achieve the little proficiency I got right now. So I wish you to acquire knowledge. Bye bye, have a nice one.